Hello! Welcome to my very first video on this channel. I am very excited to show off the thing I have spent many months working on. What you are seeing on screen is my very first actual, full-sized game called Microfactory. It is a simple factory game where you have to produce as much complicated stuff as you can. I really want to see how deep I could make a recipe tree with it still being comprehensible. The entire system for this was designed over many months and streamlined to make the development very easy for me. The only thing I'm currently bottlenecked on is ideas. So if you have any ideas, feel free to put them in the comment section below. And while you're at it, like and subscribe, and if this interests you, maybe try it out on itch.io. The link should be in the description. It has a fully fleshed out handbook that shows all the recipes. And we are currently trying to make the world get a little bigger because, well, you can't do much with this amount of space. In order to do that, the way I designed it is you have to make, well, bullets and ammo and essentially conquer new areas. Of course, nothing actually happens, it's just a machine doing stuff. But I like to pretend that I'm, expanding into enemy territory, or something similar. Once we have our ammo, we're going to need, well, something to shoot it with. And that can be built out of steel. In case it didn't occur to you, I am doing a voiceover for this. So, it is, I guess, some desync from when I, well, played this and when it's happening. So, I will be, this is also my first time doing a voiceover, so it's very satisfying to just watch a factory spring to life. If you're watching this, I at least hope that you know about other factory games, such as Factorio, Satisfactory, Shapes 2, all of the greats. This was mostly inspired by Factorio, with my own little spin put on it. Currently, we're trying to make steel, which requires charcoal and iron, which I have already gathered, and now we just need the oxygen. But because there are waste products produced by that, well, they can be used for other things, but not always. Those will have to be gotten rid of. In this game, you can dispose of resources via the garbage can, but it has a 1 in 10 chance of just producing an item called pollution. There are facilities that allow you to recycle this pollution, but sometimes you don't really need it, which is why using a basic loop, you can just repeatedly recycle it until it just isn't a problem anymore. Eventually, I'll go back and realize that I needed to break that loop because the stuff's just going to keep looping around and isn't going to be there on time to actually be deleted. It'll take a small amount of time for me to notice, but I won't notice. Or, yeah, if you look at it, It's starting to fill up with hydrogen and pollution. So while I'm doing everything else, the oxygen is getting bottlenecked. Currently, we are trying to make pistols, which require pipes, and I think I called them bars or rods in the code. Pipes can be made from rods, so all you have to do is split them, turn one to pipes, and put them back together, essentially. This game is designed heavily for touch controls because it allows people on stuff like iPads and other things to play it. It does have keyboard controls, but from personal experience, they kinda suck because there isn't a delay. So pushing the W button makes you go a bajillion miles an hour upward. It's just so satisfying watching stuff. Right here, I finally realized that I made a bit of a mistake and need to erase something. Hmm. Yeah, we're trying to make ammo now, so we need to take that gunpowder we made at the start of the video and turn it into usable resources. You may notice that arrow machine there. That is a launcher. It can launch something any amount in a vertical direction. There is no horizontal launcher because it adds a bit of a logistical challenge, I believe, for the same reason why there isn't a vertical splitter. There is a very basic tutorial other than the handbook, and there we go. Movement with the keys is very fast. That's what I just did there. Yeah, we can see that the world slowly starts to expand. It will slow down because it is chance-based, and these are our milestones. In this video, we will just be getting to the steel one. But now it's time to do something that I do in almost every single one of my runs, which is a trash loop. Essentially, at a certain Y position that I find easy to access, which is usually 20, I have a giant loop of conveyor belts around some trash machines, which will allow me to essentially void any undesired resources. Which is great because then it'll allow me to actually not have to worry about certain byproducts. It makes it easier. You could recycle them and bring them back, but I'm kind of lazy. You may think that, wait, didn't he make a loop before and didn't it not work then? Well, the reason this one works is because it's bigger. Because items move, I think it's 25 cells before machines run. The game runs on a tick system, and machines tick every 25 ticks. Well, belts go every single time, which means that machines are a lot slower than the belts. It's very satisfying to do this. The reason we are making pollution is because we need some copper and zinc to make brass, which is the first component. can be made in the pollution processing. And there we go. Watching over this footage has made me realize that I had them offset by one, and that one piece of pollution is going to be there for essentially the rest of time. And that bugs me so much. Might have to go back and fix that next video. Currently, we're just smelting the zinc and copper because, well, you need them in smelted form to make the alloy. I added a thing in the smelting recipe where the copper and zinc are misaligned, so you have to do a little bit of finagling in order to get them to do stuff. It just makes it a little more challenging. We have a world size of 120, though, so moving stuff around isn't going to cause much issue. See here, I'm trying to figure out a good way to do this, but then I realize that we can't have that go there because that would get in the way of the other one. So we have to essentially make a zigzag. And here's me just trying to copy the thing, kind of. Takes a little bit to the hang of. Just currently thinking about the best way to do this fast. Because, again, I'm lazy. And, well, this is very fun to mess around with. There is the problem of those extra copper, because every time you place a machine or a belt on top of something, it deletes it, and those can cause bottlenecks, which is why there is no copper in the last lane. So, you just have to go by and delete them. Boom, just like that. Now, we just need to smelt them in a furnace, which is the recipe, I believe, 6. Yes, it is. But this is just a brass nugget. So we will have to combine 3 of them in an assembling machine in order to make a brass ingot. We will need a couple of these, especially in the future. But because this video is only going to the second component level, I decided to not make too much production. As you see me flipping through the book, you can see there is quite a few recipes in this game. And that's because things get relatively complicated in the later game. I could not do it in one session quite a while ago, and the game didn't have saving back then. So, yeah, I kind of just lost all the progress I made. Which is the decision that made me finally decide to add saving. Over here you can see that I'm adding more pollution processing and stuff because I do realize that I do need a decent chunk of things. It's very satisfying just watching stuff be built. I have to say, whenever I play this game, my designs look relatively similar for a couple of things, such as the trash loop, or the giant thing of wood that's just immediately being thrown in the garbage in order to make the pollution. Now we just need our furnaces. You may wonder why there's 2 arrows, and if you're paying attention, one of the arrow sets increases/decreases by 10, while the other just does 1. Makes it easier to do recipes in the larger numbers. I believe the assembling machine has 30 different recipes, give or take. Now we're just going to combine these outputs with a belt and split them, because we need a gear and a plate. Plates can just be made in the press, which was, fun fact, the first machine to get an animation. And now we just need the gears, which are just made in an assembling machine. But now we need a steel rod to finish off our brass component. So we're going to have to make steel. In the future, I definitely will need to expand the design, because the thing I build here is definitely not optimal. It's very slow and definitely could use some more machines, but it is better than nothing. What I'm doing currently is making charcoal, which needs to be made from planks, which need to be made from logs. It's a relatively common resource that you will have to use. Now we are also making iron to go with it. But now it's time for the fun part: oxygen. This, I decide to use the alternative recipe that you can use air for, which produces two water and an oxygen, instead of the nitrogen pollution. It ends up as the same because I end up throwing them in the garbage anyway, but I don't know, I felt like changing it up a little. So we place down our compressor. I don't know why, but I got zoned out for a second and forgot where the compressor was. And now we can place in our air sorter, and boom, oxygen and hydrogen, H2O. And now we just move that over, and now we need to get rid of the hydrogen. This time, though, I actually remember to use the system without a loop so it doesn't clog up. I also decided to use 4 garbage machines because I believe I thought it might get bottlenecked. I don't know, I just did 4 machines for some reason. Maybe for the future, in case we need to expand anymore, but doubtfully. And now we have steel. We will need to do quite a few things to this steel, which is why, to make things a little easier, we are going to be moving it quite a ways up, which will give us space to mess around with some things. This will just give us space so we can produce all the different steel machine stuff, and then we can just bring the brass up to meet it. What I'm currently doing is building the steel design so it can supply steel for both the brass components and the eventual steel components. We need to split off that rod because we will need that for the brass components, but we will need rods still to be combined with the plates in order to make, well, the machine frames. Here we go. Now we just combine those in an assembler with recipe 1, and boom, we got machine frames. I don't know how to feel about the machine frame sprite. It definitely took a bit of thinking to decide on the final design, and it's okay, but Definitely not my favorite. You can see here that I realized that I also will need plates for the second science, or component, or whatever the heck you want to call it. So I have to adjust my device just a little. Here I am replacing these components with a launcher so I can have space to put the plates in. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring it out and then split it so that we have some for later. Now we can finally make our brass components. Kind of tried to eyeball where to put the poles. Missed it a bit though, so I had to decrease it. This is why I usually set my recipes before placing the launcher, because it'll leave like a line behind if you have to change it. Sometimes it is useful to do that though. And then we can bring the gears up, launch the plates over, and put them together in the assembly line, which is probably my favorite machine sprite. And we got our brass components. Now it's time to add on the steel. Every single component is designed to require the previous component to build. I decided to launch this up this time because, I don't know, it felt like it. There's a lot of weird things I do. Now we can just bring our plates over and we can essentially be done. Thank you for watching this video. This is my first, and I hope to continue producing these. If you'd like to check out the game, it is in the link in the description, in both a web version for itch.io, which is what I'm playing on, and a downloadable version for Windows. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.